Tales of Estolia. Volume 1. The Promise of Zacharias. Part 5. According to Prophecy. Chapter 5. Assassination. As part of my research, I visited residences for the aged in Spain, Portugal, Belgium, England, Iceland, Canada, and the United States. I had a list of some of the most pivotal events of the previous 100 years, and I asked participants to compare two at a time, and let me know which one they found more memorable. Participants were born before 1930. They were old enough to remember the moon landing, the fall of the Berlin Wall, and the attacks on the World Trade Center, among other dramatic moments in human history. The event most frequently selected was the assassination of Roux. When asked why, most of them said that it symbolized the death of hope. The hope that humanity could iron out its difficulties, that peace might prevail, that evil might fail when faced with the true power of the best qualities contained in the hearts of mankind. Lazarus Ezekiel Zakarian, Capítulo 86. December, 2019. Callista tidied the stack of index cards once she reached the podium in her history class. She didn't need them, but they would give her something to hold, and help her focus her attention if she stumbled at all. While she waited to begin the presentation, she remembered the dream from the previous night. Riley, have you seen my speech? With a toss of her silver blonde hair, Riley bent to pick up her father's briefcase. It's in your briefcase, Dad, where else would it be? He took the briefcase from her and opened it up, pulling out the typescript. With a heavy frown, he looked at a dark brown envelope and ran his fingertips over it for a moment before looking up and meeting Riley's eyes. You should stay here, he said. It's too much excitement for the baby. Riley's hand caressed the mound of her advanced pregnancy. No way, Dad, I'm going to tell my baby all about how I stood with you just before you were elected governor. And the next one? The presidency, of course, she laughed. A door opened and closed and she turned to see her husband entering the hotel suite. With a joyous laugh, she crossed the room to hug her husband. Stephen, she said. During the drive, he closed his eyes. He didn't want to meet his daughter's eyes. She would see the truth within him. Callista gathered her thoughts. Before continuing her narrative, Roux was an absolute certainty to win the race for governor of California in 2000, and was almost certain to become president in 2008. Unfortunately, despite being warned, he wrote in his diary that he would not yield to threats, and on the 15th of April, as he accepted his party's nomination as candidate to run for governor, he was assassinated. With him on the stage were his only child, Riley Carlisle, who was nearly 9 months pregnant, and her husband. They were all shot and killed. Anton Brewer Moises, the alleged shooter, turned the gun on himself after the act, and his motive was never discovered. World leaders and political figures from both parties here in the United States all shared their sincere condolences with the voters of the state of California. He was considered, by all who knew him, allies and enemies alike, to be one of the finest men on the planet. His funeral was attended by both presidential candidates, the sitting president, and all living former presidents. His fundamental humanity could not be doubted. Callista's jaw clenched, trying to stem the flow of tears, but she was unsuccessful. Cutting short her conclusion, she said only, Riley's final diary entry demonstrated how seriously he took the threats to his life. He asked her to consider staying home for that final rally, but she believed in her father, in his vision for the future, and in his candidacy for the governorship of California. She did not wish to harm him by her absence. Her throat closed up on the emotions rushing through her system. The grief at losing her parents and brother clouded her thinking. She could not go on. With a glance at the timer, She saw that she'd already finished the minimum time for one of the final presentations, and so she smiled through the tears and gathered up her notecards.